I'm Suzanne Stevens. You've heard the saying, there's no such thing as bad press. But when the Wall Street Journal tells the world that Corpus Christi is running out of water, it's the
kind of bold-faced lie.
It's the cost of city business, especially when it drops the same weekend that the city cancels its biggest water contract.
Welcome to Inside City Hall. Today we're joined by Ernie De La Garza, Director of Public Works, and Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services of the City of Corpus Christi. Now, these two departments work closely together to help keep our city running smoothly, but their roles are very different. Public Works handles the day-to-day maintenance of our streets and infrastructure, while Engineering Services handles the planning, delivery, and design of our capital and bond projects. Today, we're going to learn more about what each of these departments do, how they work together, and we'll highlight some of their recent successes. Jeff, Ernie, thanks for being here. So to start,
I'm pretty sure there's a legitimate reason for this radio show and for these two to be on there, but I can't figure out what it is. But the only thing that I can draw from this is that they really are pushing the fact that they are keeping the bays and ocean clean, right? Because the guy who's saying this is the guy who paints the streets.
can each of you describe your department's core mission and its responsibilities? Ernie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so our core mission at Public Works is to provide maintenance and operation services in streets, as well as stormwater and traffic operations. So a lot of people know Public Works as just the street department, but we do provide stormwater services for the city. And then a big component is also traffic operations. And so a lot of the pavement markings, the signals, the operational function of those, coordination of those signals and timing, that's all Public Works.
The coordination and timing of all the signals is a software program, first of all.
And then we also branch out into environmental components as well. We have environmental inspectors, making sure that pollutants are not ending up in bays and estuaries.
What? Really? So you guys paint the roads, deal with the traffic signals, and then what? Save the dolphins at night, or what? You're the protector of the marina at night. You can save the dolphins by night, like Batman. Why all of a sudden would you branch out into environmental health out of, because normally what you're used to is street maintenance, right? And now you're going into fucking the health of the marina. I wonder why that would be and why you would be announcing that. Maybe laying the groundwork for something there, buddy?
As long as the intake and the discharge is taken out to the Gulf far enough, we're going to support that.
Environmental inspectors, making sure that pollutants are not ending up in bays and estuaries. And so we do branch out in a lot of ways beyond just our street functions.
And Jeff, core missions and responsibilities for engineering services?
Well, it's actually very simple. Our mission is to manage the delivery of the capital improvements program.
Right. What?
So that's pretty much anything that involves construction to deliver.
Construction.
So for someone who might not understand the difference between the two departments, can you explain the distinction a little bit more between engineering services and public works?
Well, so we don't operate or maintain infrastructure.
Okay.
We are focused on delivering construction projects, and that can be anything from airport to water.
So if by delivering construction projects, he means the construction projects that he's delivered halfway through but left there to die, and then put a sign up for water we waiting for, support the Inner Harbor desal. If that's what he means by construction and water, then yeah, I get it.
Right.
And so the bond program is most of our interaction with the street department is delivering the street bond projects.
He keeps saying delivered projects when really they've only delivered the beginning of projects and halfway through projects and never actually finished them as far as I know.
Okay. So how would you explain the difference, Ernie?
To the non-technical person, like Jeff mentioned, you have the bond program, which is, say, for example, building Everhart, roadway. Yeah. That is 100% Jeff's department.
Finally, some specificity. Let's see what Jeff has done for Everhart, okay?
Working on the median route, but have we made any improvements, or what improvements are we making to make sure these things get done on time? It's not as important as to the businesses on Everhart.
Building Everhart, roadway.
It's not as important as to the businesses on Everhart.
Your name and city, please.
Oh, Keenan, Lehman, and Corpus Christi, Texas.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to read the petition so you guys can hear it. I own a business off of Everhart. It's been under construction for about 2 years now.
It's not as important.
And I think it's subject to end in about 6 months or 8 months or something like that. I've looked at the timeline. I think that's what they're projecting. So this petition, I'll just read it word for word. It says, we the businesses of Everhart between Alameda and SPID are demanding economic relief from the city of Corpus Christi due to the construction project that began in 2023 and is subject to end in 2026.
Construction to deliver.
This project has forced businesses to lose unseen profits, set them back years of progress, even forcing many to close or pay moving costs and find another location.
Building Everhart, roadway.
We are unhappy with the current state of the road construction and demand that the city pay the lost revenue to ensure that local businesses do not go under but remain a part of Everhart Road. The city has neglected these local businesses without care or consideration.
It's not as important as to the businesses on Everhart.
We are demanding that the city pay out economic relief immediately to these businesses and all who have been affected. And then I have about 30 signatures from different business owners on the road with an estimated loss of $4 million in revenue.
It's not as important as to the businesses on Everhart.
Loss of $4 million in revenue, just collectively, just a small estimate. I asked everybody to write down how much money they thought they lost over the last 2 years that they could directly draw from the construction, different things happening, like they're being able to pull into their business was blocked off, and that whole day they wouldn't make any money, and normally it'd be like a $2,000 day, so that's $2,000, stuff like that. So they just recorded it all down, and they wrote it in a very, very rough estimate, about $4 million. So again, we're just asking that the city would please consider putting in some sort of economic relief program for these small businesses. A lot of cities have programs like this, small grants that they can give to businesses that are affected by construction. It is like a very common thing. And I don't know why Corpus Christi doesn't have it.
Yeah, you would think they had something called the Small Business and Economic Assistance General. It looks like they have one. It looks like it doesn't have any money in it. That's odd. Maybe we should holla at Jeff. He's the professional at delivering projects. He's a project deliverer, delivering project delivery. Jeff, what's up, Jeff? Holla at your boy. Deliver a project.
What is the timeline in doing this if we do it? It pushes this
I
back.
think it would be probably, it'd be a rush to get this back to you within 4 months, 5 months.
Wow.
My intent, this is from 2018. I don't want to delay it, but
Okay, so you don't want to delay. That's okay. So there's no money for the revenue support or economic reimbursement, whatever you want to call it, for the small businesses. But in 2023, in June, Jeff got awarded for his construction delivery.
Got $93 million worth of construction contracts that we're asking you to approve.
Well, dip me in shit and roll me in breadcrumbs, man. 93 mil, huh? Okay, 2 years later.
Mr. Edmonds, I wanted to make sure that this is going to be paid out of what fund?
Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services. The funding that's available in this project is Type B funding that was approved, I'm going to say, over 2 years ago. And that's the only funding in there. We only have funding for upfront costs. So there was.
It's weird how he mentions the Type B funding because the fraud department said that their recommendation was to have somebody look into it who is outside counsel and is also very familiar with Type B funding, right? Which means they couldn't fully do their job because they're not fully aware of what Type B funding is. Here's the little thing that they used or whatever, but I'm not aware of what it is either. So.
On how we would make recommendations. And then in 2019, we updated that staff policy, and then there was an item that came up I think it was the Rodfield Road contract, and there was a lot of discussion about that. It didn't really meet the staff policy, but some of the council wanted to award the concrete bid anyway, even though it was above the threshold. So
one thing I've learned is people who are corrupt or people who are dishonest or people who lie, they pretty much stick to either the same corrupt ways, the same dishonesty, or the same lies whenever they lie. They kind of stick to the same thing. And what I'm hearing here is that the council has no problem violating their own policy or skipping the policy to hire somebody that they like or they want, right? Because that's what he just said. They ignore the policy to hire somebody that came out on a, that they wanted, basically. So in my experience, if that's what they do, they're going to continue to do that, right? They're not going to change the manner in which they are lie, dishonest, and cheat.
Came up, I think it was the Rodfield Road contract, and there was a lot of discussion about that. It didn't really meet the staff policy, but some of the council wanted to award the concrete bid anyway, even though it was above the threshold.
So you heard that, right? So that's what they do. You know what I mean? That's their mode of corruption, right? So
Who do we have here? Councilman Scott, did you have your light on? Okay, all righty. Okay, so I think we're good now. Okay,
Right.
Councilman Scott.
Multitasking poorly. All right, here are my thoughts. I think it's a wonderful time to pass on negotiating take-or-pay contracts when we may not have any water to provide the take-or-pay contract. But I do think it'd be an interesting conversation to tie these take-or-pay contracts into a new water supply. Right? Hey, we're gonna provide a drought-proof water supply system, and we need you guys to step up to the plate and sign a contract that'll provide it security to be able to repay that. So that's my thought. Number two, how much the general thought is, how much is the Harbor Island water going to be?
John Byram is probably similar to the price we were estimating for this one's about $11, $12.
Yeah, I think John, when he presented last, he said it'd be in the range between 10 and 15. I think is what he said was kind of worldwide range.
I'm fascinated by the concept to provide $2.7 million for an opportunity to buy $15 water. I'm using the high end because it helps my cause when we have a project that can make $9 water. So I also am deeply concerned about what I believe to be unrealistic expectations on new water timelines. So I'd ask us to be very sensitive to that. I'd like to see what we think those timelines are, not what the developers are. Man, what a wheeze. Here are my thoughts. I want to desperately avoid saddling the ratepayers with $8 a month for 10 years. I think that's a bad deal, and I think our ratepayers would be very unhappy with that. I would prefer to own. I don't know about operate. I just think it's good to have an asset on your books.
If we enter an agreement in October to buy water from South Texas Water Authority, is there going to be some conversation about some funds set aside in case there's a failure in the pipeline, or does South Texas Water Authority indemnify the city should it not be able to move that amount of water to the city of Corpus?
So I'm not calling anybody stupid or anything, but the word indemnified, if you guys know what that means that you cannot be sued. You can't be held financially responsible for some shit you fuck up financially, right? So he's asking if that they're going to have an account set aside if they fuck up, or if it's possible that they cannot be sued for it. Right? Just listen to where his head's at. His point of view isn't, see, the reason he's talking about the ratepayers and the taxpayers is just so he can talk about money, right? Notice how his point of view is always from like an owner's perspective, or somebody who's going to be dealing the drugs or water or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? But specifically right now, he just asked the lawyer if we either we're going to have some money to pay when we fuck up, or if we can just not be sued, right? He said, I would like to own, not the city. He's speaking in the first person, like I would like to own, which is really, really odd because
not be able to move that amount of water to the city of Corpus.
It may be nothing, but the way he said the city of Corpus, this is your home, right? You say to be able to move the water here, or be able to move the water to Corpus. You don't say to the city of Corpus. It's just weird that he used that language. You know what I mean? And I think I know why.
Mr. Risley and I.
That is of great concern to me.
Right.
To turn that pipeline around and have a take-or-pay contract that relies on a third party's operation.
One governmental entity cannot effectively indemnify another governmental entity.
We're going to need to be reminded.
So we're not going to get indemnified. There's currently an evaluation of that pipeline going on. We don't know what the condition of the pipeline.
I would use, to the best of our ability, an attempt to use the $50 million we've already spent. And I don't disagree. It's time to go get a price. I think it takes a little more money to get a price, and little is relative, right? And I want to avoid losing customers. I think at some point, if our large ratepayers, our large water users do leave the system, that's really bad to the rest of us. We're all going to have to pay more. So if you were looking for direction from Mark, I will reiterate, and I think it's good to continue this conversation. I think we have an obligation to ratepayers to flesh out all these alternatives.
Yeah, you could say that, flesh out all the alternatives, or to explore all the opportunities. In his case, you know what I mean? It's the same thing, right? Fleshing out all the stuff you can do and can't do, it would be perfect for him, right? Because then he'd be aware of what he can get away with. You know what I'm saying?
I would encourage options 1 and 2. I think they deserve to be reviewed further. I think our ratepayers are going to want us to look at those very closely before.
Like drilling a couple new wells on some land that maybe Mark Scott, just happened to own, and it's just maybe happened to be the company that I own that does that drilling on the land that I own outside of the city limits. Yeah, you know, like buy a property, then demolish whatever's on it, and then make it an industrial zone, and then go to my council because I'm on the council, and then rezone it, and then drop all the property values of the residential area around what I have just changed to my liking. That couldn't happen. But if it did, it would have to start with him having bought some land outside of the city limits. You know, that's the beginning. City Hall corruption alert. Mark Scott, the current Corpus Christi City Council member, works for a title company that just got handed a $2.1 million land deal from the city. That's right. The same city that supposedly represents just paid out millions for land in Bluntner, Texas, outside the city limits where they're drilling for Corpus Christi Water, and his title company got the job. This is textbook conflict of interest. Mark Scott should be refocusing himself on every single vote involving groundwater, water wells, or anything tied to the land purchase. But he won't. Why? Because he's always been about Mark Scott. He's been on the council so long to know how to work the system to benefit himself. And that's true. He's been on this council for 16 years, or 16 terms. And then the article goes on to say he doesn't represent you. He's just furniture in the chamber, taking up space and cashing in. The city of Corpus Christi should not be doing business with anyone tied to a sitting council member, period. And that's true. This isn't leadership, and it smells like greed, and the people are watching now. No more shady deals, no more self-serving politics, no more Mark Scott doing business on both sides of the table. Now, I'm not stupid because of the whole Joseph Lowry thing. I am well aware that this could just be another councilman who's talking shit, but if it is, I mean, can we really say it's talking shit if it's true? Can we really say that it's like some kind of hit piece if the hit is an actual fact of the matter? You know what I mean? And I was debating on whether or not I wanted to even say anything about reading this or whatever and just kind of keep it to myself and then just see what transpires or whatever. But then I started to think about it, and I was like, if this guy's done this shit before, then he's definitely been in legal trouble before. And then since him asking about that indemnify question, then I was like, well, fuck, I'll go look for lawsuits in his name. And guess what? He's got one in his name, in his company's name. And here it is. 13th District Court of Appeals, Texas. So right off the rip, it's already confusingly fraudulent, I think. But San Jacinto Title Services of Corpus Christi and San Jacinto Title as one word, Services of Texas, right? And Mark Scott, right? As a individual person, right? But having two of these companies, right? Maybe he's a vice president for one, but if he owns the other one, he could create his own competition when it comes to bidding, you know what I mean? Or if he sits on the council that is the holder of one of these LLCs and one is his personal account, then he can just underbid the other one every single time and get what. Anyways, assuming these were like, you know, companies like that. But I'm just saying, just simply the naming of them to me is already sketchy. All right, so here's the background. Appley owns land, the property in Corpus Christi, Texas, on which a golf course and country club facilities are located. San Jacinto acted as Kingsley's escrow agent during the Appley's purchase of property in 2005. Scott, who serves as vice president of San Jacinto and apparently briefly present in the closing, but not involved in the actual proceedings in 2009. Jim, whoever, a homeowner in the Kings Crossing subdivision adjacent to property, sent an open letter to the Corpus Christi City Council asserting that Appellees intended to use the golf course and club to replant property and develop it commercially. Asserted that Appellee's alleged plans would substantially decrease the value of his home and stated that his strong opposition to Appellee's plans and asked to know the council's opinion on the matter. Scott, who was ultimately successful candidate for the city council at the time, responded with the parties referred to as the Hobbs letter, a mass mailing to all the residents of the subdivision. In the Hobbs letter, which was sent to Scott's campaign statutory, Scott stated in his opinion on the plan and invited people to contact him regarding the issue or any other. Scott provided his contact information, including his office phone number at San Jacinto. In February 2010, Appellee filed suit for business disparagement, breach of fiduciary duty, and tortious interference with prospective relations against Scott and San Jacinto for the breach of contract against San Jacinto alone. Appellee further alleges that Scott acted in the course and scope of his employment with San Jacinto when he sent the Hobbs letter, and that the San Jacinto is therefore vicariously liable for Scott's actions. Scott's actions. All of Appellee's claims arise from the Hobbs letter and the effect that it allegedly had on the Appellee's negotiations with Philip Hurst, a Corpus Christi businessman who had been negotiating with the Appellees to purchase the property at the time. Hurst testified in an affidavit that after seeing the Hobbs letter, he was no longer willing to pay the Appellee's asking price of $5 million. Negotiations between the Appellee and Hurst eventually broke down completely. And then there's a whole bunch of other shit, which actually was pretty dope because I read a lot of appellate decisions and a lot of decisions, period. But this is actually an interlocutory appeal on an appellate court's decision already. But anyways, what my point is that I love it. Well, I hate it when they talk too much, right? Like when they explain themselves too much. But here I like what they did because the way they explained how they diagnosed a statute's intent was awesome. Like the way anyways, but down to the end now. What I'm reading here is the denial of the motion to dismiss. Mark Scott and his companies put in a motion to dismiss this whole thing, and the 13th District denied it. As we see here, we affirm the trial court's denial of appellant's motion to dismiss. Anyway, my point is he's vice president of the San Jacinto title company or whatever, and he used his official position as a council person to write a letter or whatever to people to disparage them from working with somebody else, right? It is not far off in left field for him to use that same title service and his same position in council to acquire some land to drill a fucking hole in the ground. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's guilty of anything yet, but I'm just saying I wouldn't put it past the guy. I mean, again, like I said in one of the chats once, it's always the oldest people who are the most desperate because their time is running out, and the youngest people who are the most desperate to show that they're one of the corrupt older people, you know what I mean? That they can be trusted with the corruptness. Anyways, I don't know. See, I don't think it would be far off to have Jeff Edmonds, the guy who has $90 million to take 4 or 5 of his workers to go on some property down the street or around the corner and fucking dig a hole in some land for a well. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Just the proximity of it to it's all too interconnected, dude. These people are too close and they're just too weaselly, dude. Maybe we can get old Jeff Edmonds to deliver some projects. You know what I mean?
Is delivering the street bond projects.
You guys, we do have you guys do make the signs for the businesses, I think. Mm-hmm. And this would fall under, I guess, that same jurisdiction of who's ever doing that. But again, we're just asking for direct revenue, or economic relief, sorry.
So we've been talking mainly about
Big boy horse bulldozer. Told that pile of debris to move over. Push around rocks, you can push around weight. You should call a bulldozer if there's something in the way. Front loader, cousin of the dozer. Bucket on the front, dumping rubble on the shoulder of the road. Or sand for a highway off-ramp. Tow a couple tree trunks, free up a log jam. Back of the front loader, a glorious backhoe. The long arms stretch out and pull the earth back home. Dig a trench for the plumbing and electric. Or dig yourself a pond and put some fishy little friends in her. Skip the pond and start thinking major. That homemade lake, that excavator. Add a concrete mixer and a dump truck. That's a work site. Thumbs up.
But now we're going to switch the conversation from construction to water.
Is Rachel here? Yes. Okay.
Here, Rachel Caballero. I am still waiting to hear back on your request, Mayor, to the city manager regarding the residential street repair list from August 13th. Today is September 17th. I wonder if the rest of the community gets treated this way when information is offered during public comment and then no information is ever sent. This is misleading to the participants.
Water ain't safe. The land's made of water.
You all are actually following through on the things you promised citizens during public comment. This is absolutely unacceptable. I'm here to speak against the city manager's dream of wanting a $300,000 recording studio. First of all, join the club. In all seriousness, you all have to be kidding, right? We've increased community fees pretty much across the board. The budget is astronomically high. Community services have been adjusted because of lack of funds. You all are forcibly shoving a $757 million experimental desal plant you want to force the community to pay for, and here we are with yet another want instead of what the community needs. When is this madness going to end? Why do we as community members have to come here during our lunch and ask you all to use common sense when using our tax dollars? This should be voted against today. We all have to deal with outdated equipment. If there is that much of a need, use a locally owned recording studio and contribute back to the locally owned businesses and prove your support for us and not just industry and big corporations. All of these wants need to be deferred until after the election, as none of these things are urgent. I would like to ask our current representatives that you require the city manager to quit disparaging our community members on air and in public that are making the time to get involved in what is happening in our local government. You work for us. Council is only your supervisor, of which they are epically failing at. Per CCW CEO Drew Malley, not only is the proposed desalination plant experimental, but so is the equipment and the process that is going to be used. Why is this council okay with making our Corpus Christi Bay the guinea pig of new engineering? We have to quit comparing ourselves to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has a direct feed to the Gulf of Mexico. You just got to look at a map, guys. That's all you got to do is look at a map. They have a direct feed into the Gulf of Mexico. Our Corpus Christi Bay does not have a direct outlet to the Gulf. Have the day you deserve.
Thank you.
Austin, I think 2 or 3.
Well, and I'll just say this. I mean, I've been fortunate in my career. I serve as a board director for the American Water Works Association. It's the largest nonprofit professional water organization in the world. And there's 2 directors in Texas, and I happen to be one of them.
Yes, professional water organization, redirection and application delivery. You mean plumber?
To the developing story that we've been following today from City Hall, Drew Malley, the Chief Operating Officer for CC Water, has resigned effective September 3rd. Malley oversaw operations through record drought and stage 3 water restrictions.
The very same 7-year drought that we are stuck within now. Statement of fact, he left during those things, right? He stayed and got us up to the drought 3 water restrictions and whatever phase, blah, blah, blah. And then he quit just now. We're still currently in all those things.
The fact that I represent this organization, like I said, we have 50,000 members. And one of the things that allows me to do is it really allows me to talk and network and get to know my peers in the industry. And one of the things that is as the city manager said, is that we are the 8th largest city in Texas, and the 7 cities larger than us all have at least 3 water treatment plants. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, the city that I spent many, many years working, Houston, for example, has.
Well, tonight our Bill Churchwell spoke with city leaders and with Drew Molly himself. And Bill, did Molly give you any indication at all as to why he is stepping away from that role?
In fact, I asked him point blank if this decision was forced upon him, and he said that is not the case, that this was his decision.
Just like an angry 7-year-old little girl that gets told to do something, right, that gets punished, she says, no, I'm doing this because I want to, right? That's what he means by it was his decision, right?
And that there was an opportunity for him to go back to Houston to take a leadership role there. However, during our interview, he did address the challenges that came with this job.
You know, from my perspective, it was an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to serve the community and be a part of this community, and so I'm really grateful for that.
Molly's departure as Chief Operating Officer comes after serving in that role for almost 3 years, a time marked by both progress and pressure as he helped steer the city through historic drought conditions.
I'm saddened, but I completely understand that doors open, doors close, and that's just the way life is. We're losing a great leader.
How many people believe all this bullshit?
Leading the city's water department as they pushed forward with long-term water solutions, increasing the flow of the Mary roads, and one of the most controversial options, desal.
Obviously, seawater desal is the future. That I believe that strongly.
I just want to show you how delusional that thought is. This is not the future, right? Saltwater desal is not the future at all. In fact, there's already things that are better than this, which we'll get into that. That's going to be another video, but check it out.
Sediment substrate. The fresh water floats on deep pockets of dense seawater and pushes it down to form stores of fresh water shaped like lenses. As more rain falls, lenses thicken. These lenses have been a stable and reliable source of fresh water. But things are changing. Rising sea levels make lenses less likely to form, and extreme weather brings giant waves.
Oh, by the way, this is some island in between like Australia and Hawaii, like off in the, they said it's the only landmass that's in all 4 hemispheres, which I thought was pretty cool. But anyways, this is their struggle with fresh water. I think it's crazy because what Corpus Christi is trying to convince us of is that we're running out of water and we need this plant. Well, this place actually went through that, and listen to what happens to the plants they built. They built 2 of them.
That flood them with salty water. Water scarcity in Kiribati is also compounded by development. Most people live on South Tarawa, and it's more densely populated than Tokyo. For many households, harvesting rain is the only way of getting fresh water. But if there's no rain, which happened recently in a period of prolonged drought, there is no fresh water. It may seem like a distant example, but Kiribati is only one of many places with are expensive to build. Distillation is also heavily energy intensive, and although reverse osmosis uses less energy, the salt that's removed accumulates and clogs the membranes, so it can require expensive maintenance. A case in point is a raised reef island of Kiribati called Banaba. During the long drought a couple of years ago, 2 desalination plants were built. Both broke because they cost too much to run and maintain. Banaba suffers the same weather extremes and droughts as the rest of the country, but also has a second problem. It's very rich in phosphates, and historical mining left lasting damage. One article I read said that by 1979, when mining was stopped, 90% of Banaba's surface had been stripped away. Mining also pretty much completely destroyed all of their underground freshwater reserves or filled them with hazardous waste. So, for the 300 or so people living back on Banaba today, there is no source of fresh water apart from rain. Besides the financial and energy costs, Another problem from traditional desalination is the very salty brine that it leaves behind.
This is why it needs to be discharged way the fuck out in the Gulf for it to not have any effect on, because there is going to be so much of it. In fact, check it out.
The hypersaline concentrate that's left behind from desalination can be twice as salty as the ocean water. This is often pumped back into the sea without being properly treated, creating low oxygen, high temperature dead zones where nothing can live. And the thing is, conventional desalination actually produces more brine than it does fresh water. If the daily production of desalinated water could fill up 36 Great Pyramids, the amount of hypersaline concentrate created would fill 54.
Okay, there's more of that toxic discharge than there is actual product yielded. Here, let me put that into perspective. Let's say you eat a certain amount of food, but you shit twice as much, right? It's impossible to do that. But if you have a desalination plant, as much as you get out of it, right? As much water as you get, you're going to shit twice that much out back into the fucking ocean or back into the bay, which is all. Look, the ocean, the bay is the butthole of the ocean, right? And then the canals are the butthole of the bay. You know what I'm saying? Well, the laguna is the butthole of the bay, and the bay is the butthole of the ocean, right? So the port. Anyways, we can't put more shit back into an already dirty butthole. You know what I'm saying?
I believe that the Inner Harbor project is a great project. If it's not a project that we build today, certainly it's a project that we have the option to go build it at some point in the future.
A project that drew tough questions from some city council members about its price and timeline.
So it's been stressful for Drew. It's been stressful for the entire staff. It's been stressful for the city council. You know, so it's not for everybody. Everybody can't handle that stress. And you just have to weigh your options. Is it worth it?
I asked Drew about those stresses.
From a work-life balance, you know, there was some challenges there at times, but you know, the opportunities far exceeded, you know, some of the downtimes that we had.
We knew Drew has options.
Meantime, City Manager Peter Zanoni calling Molly a trusted
liar. A trusted liar? Is that what he said?
Peter Zanoni calling Molly a trusted leader who helped.
Oh, a trusted leader. My bad.
Helped lay the groundwork for long-term water security.
He has over 25 years of water.
Brain to win. Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. You know, I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase is trademark, not to use the other.
This is why Drew Molly, I'm sorry, those first names just confused me. This is why Drew Molly left, for real. Not because he had better job opportunities, it's because he got laughed out of town. Just like everybody who's taken a couple of courses in business sales doesn't mean they're an actual leader, which is why they tuck their tail and run like he did, because that's what he is. And we're about to see that on full display here. He is very deceptive, deceiving, and doesn't tell the whole story, which is the worst thing you can possibly do to the public, dude.
Thank you, Mr. Risley. So individuals will be called upon in order that they signed up electronically. We'll first hear in-person comments, followed by virtual public comments. Residents of Corpus Christi will be given priority over non-residents. And if you'll please state your name and the city in which you live before beginning your comments, it would be much appreciated. You have two opportunities to make public comment on an agenda item or city-related business. First is at this present time, and second when the item is actually heard. Please select one option. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes, while non-resident comments are limited to 1 minute. A visible timer positioned near the city secretary's desk will assist in managing this allotted time. And if you have a petition or relevant information, please present it to the city secretary before speaking. So with that, we will start with Mr. John Weber.
I heard from somebody that this guy, John Weber, on a weekly, clowns the fuck out of these council members, and he does it without talking shit, or without, you know what I mean, without not the way I would do it, is basically what I've heard. So anyways.
John Weber, Corpus Christi. A link in written comments goes to the whole recording I shared at the last council meeting. From the Tampa Bay Business Journal, the plant was closed November of 2023. It produced 33.4 billion gallons of water since 2007. That is just over 5.38 million gallons a day. The plant was designed to produce 25 million gallons a day. That's a big shortfall. Steve Ramos's travel request, Maria Corona's travel request, William Creech's travel request, Drew Molly's travel request. Drew Molly, and it appears all four of them went to Tampa Bay March 3rd through the 5th. I haven't heard Mr. Molly speak about his trip at council meetings. He did speak about them on a local radio show.
Earlier in the year, we met with all the experts. Tampa Bay has a desal plant. It's very similar. It's 25 million gallons a day. They've been running it for 15 years. We got a really fine tour during that visit. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was I was asking the leadership team in Tampa Bay, where is the salty water going? Where's the concentrate? I want to see what that looks like. And they said, well, we're saving that for the end. So at the end of the tour, they took us to a marine life sanctuary. And in a channel that was isolated, far less water movement than what we see where we would be discharging in our inner harbor, there is a marine life sanctuary where you have 500,000 visitors in Tampa Bay come to this marina, and they basically watch manatees, dolphins, sharks swimming around in this channel where the concentrate is discharged. I've got pictures on my phone.
I received this email from Paul Stanek, the Chief Operating Officer of Tampa Bay Water. He confirms the plant was shut down on November 2023. He also states the October 2024 restart was delayed. They are still on track to getting it going by the end of this year. The statements Mr. Molly made on the radio show were misleading. He failed to mention the plant wasn't in operation. He also failed to mention the marine refuge was created before the desal plant because of the warm water discharge of the power plant. Did Mr. Molly share with the council that the desal plant wasn't operating when he and his staff got their tour? A lot of taxpayer money was spent on this trip to tour a non-operational desal plant. As reported, it will cost more than $500 million to keep this plant open for the next 20 years. So even after you build the plant, there will be significant additional cost to keep it running in the later years. Thank you and have a nice day.
Start our public comment a little early then, and that would be item F. So I'd like to take just a moment to emphasize the importance of this business meeting.
You see, even that little deception right there. She said, we're going to start public comment early. Now we're starting a business meeting. No, it's an open city council meeting. It's an open city meeting, a meeting of the city's residents and the council. It's a meeting. It's not a business meeting. We don't do business, right? You guys vote on things that the business has already been taken care of, right? And you just announce them and vote on them, right? And then get our input. It's not an actual business meeting. Seems like since I can fucking remember, or it seems like since the beginning of business in general or history, really, that all people that are on city councils or all government and all cops want everything to be a private business, because in a private business, the cops can literally just violate your rights, right? A private business can violate your rights. They can tell you to leave because you're black or you're gay or you're a girl. You know what I mean? They can do that. That's what it's a private business to get the fuck out. You know what I mean? And so that's why cops love it. And then also too, private businesses don't have to publicize almost any of their dealings, really, just some financial stuff. You know what I mean? So of course the corrupt city councilors are gonna want their shit to be a private business, right? That's why they do that, man. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It's an open meeting between the public and you guys and the people who deal with our money. It's not a business meeting, dude. That is a casual whatever. It should be friendly. You know what I mean? Anyway, it should give the business some direction, you know what I mean? And then you guys can go handle that shit. That's what we pay you for, right? That's why you get voted up there, right? So we don't have to do that because we have to work, right? You guys handle business, we work, and then we meet together and talk about it. That's how it goes. It's not a private business. You guys aren't private. Now, the only similarity that y'all have to a business is the fact that your policy applies to your employees, right? So you have two options, right? Either be a business and do exactly what businesses do and apply the policy to only your employees, or two, be a government and apply the policy only to your employees, because that's the only place you can apply your stupid ass policy. I just want to throw that in there. If you're a business, employee policy. If you're not, still employee policy. You know what I'm saying? Those are your two options. Stop pushing your policy on us.
Handling the delivery of the planning.
Have every expectation that the city is going to deliver this project.
Manage the delivery of the capital improvements program. Right. So that's pretty much anything that involves construction to deliver.
Construction crews, that's like a whole different thing. The construction crews are horrible, and the way that they've managed their time has been horrible. I'm just sitting around doing nothing for 2 or 3 hours. It's absolutely horrible.
On delivering construction projects, and that can be anything from airport to water.
Right.
And
they are working in the middle of the day. They're not working overnight, so they're not working 24 hours, which most construction companies do in bigger business and bigger cities in order to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman, and that's why I just directed that to the city manager, and then we'll be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have every expectation that the city is going to deliver this project, and they are putting lots of resources into making sure that the city gets a competitive project at a affordable rate for our ratepayers. So
and the Texas Water Development Board.
Texas Water Development Board said. Anyway, here comes the bullying, basically.
And the Texas Water Development Board said the entire state of Texas is watching.
Right.
And we know because of the enthusiasm that the legislature has, which includes Senator Hinojosa and Senator LaMantia, so that way we have a good project and we're able to provide resources not just for us but the entire state of Texas.
Right.
So much that, and as one time I remember, Jim came to my office. I said, "Hey, we got a lot more in common than we don't." And I have to go back. He was right. He said that industry is willing to pay for it, and they are.
Prove it then, bro. Where are they?
Projects that were discussed earlier are going to take the community out of drought restrictions. So where have all of y'all been trying to find a way to get the community out of drought restrictions? Why haven't any of you been able to convince industry to come to the table with cash?
He said that industry is willing to pay for it, and they are.
And participate in providing water. Come on, guys.
He was right. He said that industry is willing to pay for it, and they are. And there are others, shall I say, other intentions of other individuals that want to profit from that. That's why we have this urgency, is that if the private sector, because we're being watched on a worldwide basis, comes in, there's going to be an additional cost, and the citizens of Corpus Christi lose control of oversight.
That's right.
The citizens of Corpus Christi will lose control of oversight.
Shut the fuck up, dude. We don't have any control. You guys do whatever the fuck you want.
Because now the private sector is going to handle it, and you're going to have whatever administration is in office for EPA or TCEQ. And if you wanted to, with us, if you wanted to get information and there's a problem, you can do an.
If there's a problem and you wanted to get information, nobody wants information if there's a problem. They want somebody to fix it, right? That's why we pay you guys, dude. You're not going to be able to leverage that shit against us. Besides, there's no way a government's going to let a private company fully own that desalination plant anyways. So, and plus, you know what? I do prefer you guys being in public and having these open meetings, because we get to see things that other people don't see.
33 is a resolution relating to establishing the city's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds.
I agree, because you guys can't hide stuff like this. Everybody can see your intentions.
Got 35 notches on the belt. Fire in the sky with 5 records on the shelf. Stress-related symptoms in my health. Said I couldn't take it with me. Watch me drag it all to hell. Then I pour another bottle on my grave. Ain't nobody care about you when you step up off this stage. Plus the doc told me I should count my days. Said the poison in my body's like a bullet to the face. Yeah, I'm going off, bitch, I'm going off. Pressure hanging around my neck like a holy cross. Turn that lightning in a bottle into Molotovs. Paint tatted on me like a motherfucking coat of arms. If you thought that it was different, then you go and saw it. Everybody knows, go and play the Leonard Cohen song. Bad days, long nights, and strong medicine. If you can hear it knocking, you's about to let the devil in.